and everybody has to teach somebody young to sew. That's your job, is you've got to teach somebody young to sew. And then underneath that by the needle, you have your reverse that looks like a hook. That's your reverse button, and then you have your stop start. This is how you'll stop and start your embroidery when we get into that. And you can also use this button instead of using the foot pedal. Okay, and that's a really neat handy feature. It gives you hands-free again, or just speeds up, foot-free. It speeds up. I think it speeds up because you don't have to worry about what your foot is doing. Okay, so now we're going to look at the screen. On top, you have a stylus. So now you don't have to use your finger to touch the screen anymore. It saves on fingerprints, and it's a little bit more precise when we're working in the editing. So everybody raise your screens back up to your eye height. That's comfortable for you. Okay, we're all good. So it tells us we're in utility mode. It's a single needle, it's auto tension, and underneath that it says you've got the A foot on, and yours is different. We'll fix yours in a sec. Everybody says A foot on there. So it does tell you what foot that you need for that stitch, and it's the best to have the correct foot. You're going to get the stitch forming better if you use the correct foot. You're on straight stitch, so let's say now we're going to adjust it. So in the bottom right, you'll see the word adjust, if everybody can touch that. Okay, so what we get on the left is your stitch width, but we're in straight stitch. So if everybody touches the plus sign, and as you're touching the plus sign, you'll notice your needle scooting over to the right. You can actually touch it and hold there, Sharon. Yeah. The machine has 71 needle positions, 35 to the left, 35 to the right, and 35 to the left. What this does for the machine is it gives it 71 needle positions to make all those really cool decorative stitches that the machine has. For you, it allows you to drop the needle where you want. So if you're doing 1/4 inch and you want a scant 1/4 inch, you can still run the edge of your fabric alongside the guide, but you can move your needle just maybe 1 or 2 points to the right. So you're going to be as precise as you want to be. And when I'm doing repairs on a garment or something and I'm trying to match up what was already sewn, I put my presser foot down. You want as much presser foot on your fabric, but now you need to, my seam's over to the left, so you can scoot your needle over to the left or right. So it allows you to be more precise. And then in the middle there, you've got, it says 2.2, this is your stitch length. So if everybody touches the plus sign, and you'll see in the white bar, as you're touching the plus sign, just hold it, you'll see the stitch gets longer and longer and longer. So it shows you how long the stitch is going to be, and it goes up to 5. And then to the right of that, you've got your tension. The machine is auto tension, so just depending on the stitch you choose, you'll hear the machine changing. But depending on your fabrics that you're using or the threads, you may want to play with your tensions. So you're going to just touch X, and that will get rid of that box. Okay, and then you've got your zigzags and your mending stitches. And Sharon's just going to touch this button here, and that will, her feed dogs are re-engaging. That's why she had a different foot on there. So what I'm going to just talk about is the light blue tabs that are here. Okay, we're just going to talk about those ones there. Okay, so right now you're in utility mode, so it's a straight stitch and a zigzag. Underneath that is the buttonhole tab, if everybody can touch that. And you'll see what we've got is we've got 13 different types of buttonholes. You've got, number 12 is an heirloom buttonhole, 10 and 11 are different weights of knit buttonholes, because you don't need a real solid satin stitch when you're working with knits. And you've got some nice keyhole, rounded ends, bar tacked ends. Number 13 is for doing bound buttonholes. Has anybody ever done a bound buttonhole? So you don't know what they are. They're a lot of work.
They're a lot of work. Yeah.
What this does is it makes a perfect rectangle, and you cut out within that rectangle and turn the, you sew right sides together and then you turn it out. So you end up with this little tiny hole, and you have to put 2 little welts of fabric in there. And it's hard. I know, look at Tracy's face. It's hard. It's hard, but it's usually done on a tailored garment. So this one, when I saw this, it was like, yeah. Finally, yeah, because it's hard.
Expensive tailored outfits.
Really, really expensive ones. You usually see them on welt pockets. You know, on a man's suit, it has a really nice welt pocket, and it's got those 2 layers of fabric in it. That's how it's made. It's made like in a rectangle, and then they put those 2 welts on the inside, and there's a lot of handwork and stuff that goes in there. So the fact that this has got this on here is really a time saver. Number 14 will actually sew on buttons for you. Number 15 and 16, they're mending if you're into that kind of stuff. Number 17 and 18 are fly stitches or decorative bar tacking. So putting at the base of a pocket or on a pleat just to make it more stronger. Or you could smatter it around on a piece of fabric with decorative thread. You can create your own fabric. Number 19, 20, and 21 are just different size eyelet stitches. So again, you can also put these all over fabric, or if you're making belts, you can add that there. So what you're going to do is touch the tab under the buttonhole tab, please. This takes you into the beginning of the decorative stitches, the first category being quilting, and it tells you that there's 1 out of 4 pages of quilting stitches. There's a total of 306 different stitches on this machine. So lots of stitches, yeah, lots of stitches to keep you busy. So if you turn the page, you'll see that little button with the white piece of paper and the arrow to the right. So just keep turning the pages and you'll see all the different quilting stitches, the different heirloom stitches. And just keep turning, And you'll hear, as you're turning, you'll hear this little noise in here. That's your tensions adjusting, because the first stitch is going to be what it's adjusting to do. Okay.
How do you choose?
You know what I suggest to people is do them all. Stitch out and do them all. We have that fan that we stitched out and just did a bunch of different decorative stitches, just so you have it for reference. You could even make a little scrapbook using and making all the different decorative stitches, because it is hard to choose, but it's fun. It's really, really a lot of fun. You can dress up, you know, you can do crazy quilts and on your seams put all these decorative stitches, or on a blouse just do it down on the down your pocket, down the front, or around the cuffs. I've actually got a blouse hanging in the back there that I did all that on, and it just adds that personal touch to it. Okay, so then we've got, so now, yeah, how do you decide, how do you find all the stitches? As I said, you've got no stitch chart at the back. So at the very bottom of those light blue tabs, you have the quick reference tab. Got little blue square, so touch that, yep. There you go. So now you see it right up close. So you don't have to strain your eyes to try and look in behind. I know I had a hard time seeing that stitch chart because you'd be looking at those little tiny numbers. And so now you can see you've got, it says quick reference 1 out of 4 pages. So you can turn the page and see the rest of them. And what I'd like everybody to do is touch on the page number decorative, number 17. So everybody just touch on that. Okay, and what we're going to do now is a stitch combination. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a white button that has a star and a flower. You can touch that. This is your stitch combination. Now what I want you to do is just touch a bunch of stitches on the screen. Just touch away, and make just any of them. You don't have to be. Just touch any of them. Just keep touching. Yeah, just keep touching. And you'll see them forming on the top of your, and you'll see them disappearing off the left. And that's okay. Just keep touching. Make lots. Keep going. Lots of beeping, lots of chirping. See, look at Doreen go.
Show off. She said keep going.
Yeah, keep going. I want you to put lots on. Put lots on.
Wow.
Okay? So now you're like, okay, what the heck does this thing look like? So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a white button with a check M. So check your memory. So everybody touch that. Look at that beautiful design you made. And it tells you in the bottom left, there's only 1 out of 1 page. I don't even know how many pages this goes up to, because depending on the size of each stitch, you could just keep going and making a stitch combination to your little heart desired. So you touch X, and if you really, really love this, we can save it. In the bottom, but you're going to do it anyway, so just touch X, Darla. So in the bottom left corner, you'll see a yellow file folder with arrow going in. This is file save. And we're not going to save it. We're not going to save it because you didn't like it. But just to show you can save it to the built-in memory. And then there's a couple of other places that we'll talk about when we get into the embroidery. So you're just going to X out of that. So Janome, as you can see so far, Janome likes to use icons. They're much easier to understand than words. So even if you think you can't remember all of those icons, we have a sheet. There it is. Really cool little cheat sheet. It's laminated, so you can keep it beside your machine, so it tells you what all your little symbols mean, just in case you forget. But you know what? It's pretty simple and straightforward. And if you like to read, the instruction manual is really great. And I know You know, I know I'm my worst because I don't read manuals. I just like to get at my machine. But this book is really, really well done. It's got a great spiral binding because we like to fold back. Pictures are great. So if you do need to look at the manual, it is really user-friendly. So we were really happy with this book. Okay. So now what do we got here? So the next tab down under that is your AZ. This is your monogramming tab. And you have lettering on here that stitches out just like decorative stitches, so you can do quilt labels. You can add names onto. I made labels for my son when he had to go to camp. He didn't like those iron-on things, so I did his own name on his labels. And my girls put them in their stuff because they get mad when I mix it up. So they're embroidering their names and their own stuff. So that's perfect because it just fits on the band of elastic because they're nice and little. They're 7 millimeters. And then underneath that, we have our sewing applications, the tab with the t-shirt. So everybody can touch that, please. Okay, so this takes you into areas how to use and what to do with some of the stitches, what foot to use in the right spot. So if everybody can touch quilting in the bottom right. And you hear that little adjustment? That's a little robot in there telling it to adjust its tensions. And in the bottom right, it says free quilting. And as you touch that, you're going to hear the really cool sound of the feed dogs dropping. Isn't that so cool? I love that sound. It's such a neat sound. And it tells you to put on the P2 foot. The foot that you've got on your machine is the P foot, which is for embroidery. But the P2 foot is what you would use for free motion. And that is included with your machine along with, I think there's about 10 or 11 other different feet. You get a walking foot, free motion, buttonhole foot, button sewing feet, quite a few different feet, and the machine will suggest to you when to put them on. And actually, that's what I should show you is the little storage box. If everybody opens a little storage box, so this is where all the little stuff is stored. Some of you have different amounts of stuff in there, just depending on whether we put it in or left it in the box. These machines are only used for the test drives, and they go out to about 10 test drives, and then they're sold. So they're not overly used, and some, as I said, some have stuff. The other thing is it does open. So if you reach around onto the left side with your thumb against, push against the side of the machine. And you get even more goodies in there. So you have lots of storage. Stick your hand under and push your thumb against. Perfect. There you go. So I really like this box because if you've got to build quilts on or your embroidery, you can pull that drawer out and still have access to all your little gizmos. While you've got that open, if everybody can take out their little scissors, just so you have them in front of you there. So open your little front door. And we're not going to use you're going to put that back in. Yeah. You don't have your scissors in there? Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We'll get you a pair before. You only need it right at the very end, and it does have a thread cutter, but there is one little tail you have to cut. So, okay. So now what I'd like everybody to do is touch the clasp stitch to the left of that. Okay, and you'll hear your feed dogs re-engage, but you won't see them come up until you go to sew. So don't be alarmed that you don't see anything happening there. Now this clasp stitch is a really neat thing for doing instead of hand tying your quilts. I did a scrap quilt for my daughters when they go off to university, and they don't like that X that gets sewn through the middle of them. So they wanted little tiny stars on them. So by doing this clasp stitch, it allows you to quickly tie them off, and using the scissors in combination with the clasp stitch and then using the knee lift, it's really a neat little thing. So Marna actually has the knee lift there. So we're going to go down to Marna's end and have a look at her at the knee lift down there. So Marna's going to lower her presser foot with her knee. So yeah, just by using your knee. So the knee lift is actually a huge time saver. It will save you about 8 minutes of sewing in every hour by using that knee lift. It does keep your hands free, so you can pivot your fabric. You can use your buttons really, really easily. So go ahead, Marna. She's going to use, yep. So it does one clasp stitch, it stops. She's going to use her thread cutter. She's going to use her knee lift and move to the next spot. And before she starts, she's going to use her thread cutter. So you're going to hit the thread cutter. So now she's going to pull that tail off. She's going to hit her stop start button again. So it's really, really fast. Thread cutter, knee lift, and swing it to the next spot. So, you know, you really, really get used to that knee lift. And when I sit at a machine that doesn't have one, my leg starts going and wondering where it is. So it does go in this hole that's in the front. So it does come with the machine. We don't put them on for the test drives just because the chairs aren't always in the right spot, or maybe there's a leg of a table underneath. So we just leave them in the box for the test drive. So when you have the machine, you can play with it.
If you've ever made a log cabin quilt before and you've got to pivot about 1,000 times around to get all the blocks set for the log, you use the knee lift. You just keep pivoting and pivoting and pivoting.
And it's really important to come for your machine classes when you purchase the MemoryCraft 11,000. You may know how to sew. You probably, you know, sewing for 30 years, as I hear a lot of people say. And they've been sewing for a long time as well. But for the machine classes, they're not going to teach you how to sew. They're going to teach you how to use your machine. And that's really, really important. We don't want you to, you know, buy this great machine and keep using it the same way you're using your older model. It may not have as many features, well, it won't have as many features as this machine does. So we want you to use all the features. So please come for your machine classes. Take advantage of them. Play first on your machine and then come back, because you'll have a greater appreciation and probably more questions. Okay. And so we've just about covered all the stuff in normal sew. Does anybody have any questions about normal sewing? I'm going to get into the embroidery part. No, we're good? Okay. So as I said earlier, Janome was the first to come out with the embroidery machine that was the most compact. This machine still is the most compact. Even though it's robotic and has all this great technology, it's still the most compact. It takes 3 steps to get into embroidery. Our machines before that took 2, so we've got 1 little extra step, but it's still really easy. We've already put the foot on for you. Marna, you'll have to change your foot down there. You've got it, I think, it's either on your bed. Oh, you've got it there? Yep. You change your presser foot, and then again, look on the right side of your machine if everybody could. You'll see a white lever on the right side, the other right side there, Brenda. Yeah. Push down and release. And you'll see an arm come out from the back of your machine. So you're going to reach through and just push it into place. And it just drops down. Isn't that cool? So this arm stays out that far. Okay, so you know that you got to, you know, as long as that arm can go out that far, it's not going to project out any further. And then what it will do is it will move side to side, and that silver piece will move back and forth. Okay, so